from the Finland Pavilion, from the Circular Europe Days. This is the second day of the two-day session where Europe is showcasing its circular economy living lab solutions. Within these 3 hours, there will be 2 sessions. We will be opening up, talking about cities, and we will narrowing down to one of the most crucial value chains. And in this first session, it's wonderful to be present in Dubai, in the Emirates, in representing the Nordics, together with Severe Kainela. You are the Commissioner General of Finland at Dubai Expo 2020, and it's really lovely to be in Nordic collaboration on behalf of Nordic Circular Hotspot to see how might Nordic provide some kind of perspectives and insight for the circular economy. Especially proud since Finland really has been paving the way, and we can only admire what you've been doing. So please, Severi, can you share with us a little bit about the circular paradigm that you're showcasing from your pavilion, and also share what really pulled Finland off to be so quick and fast on this field?
Thank you very much, and thank you for coming to Finland Pavilion for this event. It's an honor for us. Good morning to everybody here in the physical audience and behind the screens, wherever you are in the world. Finland Pavilion has chosen circular economy as one of the very key elements of our exhibition. Our theme is sharing future happiness, and the #1 happiness that we want to share is the circular economy. This did not come dictated by government or by CCRI, but it came actually it died. Okay, is this one on? 1, 2, 3. Okay, one mic died, and we continue with another one. So the circular economy didn't come as our theme from CCRI or Finnish government. It wasn't dictated from there, but it came from the interviews with our 120 partner companies. When we had agreed with the companies that we are going to have, that they are going to be part of our exhibition, we interviewed each and every one of them. And almost all of them brought up the topic of circular economy, also sustainability and innovation. That is the reason why we made it as a key element of our pavilion. So this comes from the ground up, not from top down. And this is something that I'm really happy about. Finland has dealt with the environmental issues already for about a half a century, since 60s. Initially, it was the pollution questions, and various topics came up every decade. CCRI was very strongly involved with Cleantech Finland already in early 2000. And as early as 2016, Finland was the first country to write the national roadmap to circular economy. So this is a topic very close to us, both in the public sector and in the private sector. Now we have already written a new version of the roadmap, a strategy, how we're going to go towards the circular economy by 2035, reaching the carbon neutrality as one of the key elements of the future success of Finnish economy. So I'm extremely happy that we have this event in the Finland Pavilion. I wish you all an excellent event today. Lots of good discussions, lots of good ideas that we can share with each other and that we can learn from each other. That's what we need to do all the time, learn and adjust our attitude. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you so much for participating and collaborating in the best Nordic manner in the Nordic Pavilion. And now we'll start introducing this program. So with this nice background, we will introduce the moderators and co-moderators for this session, and the responsible, which is the Association of Cities and Region. And Françoise Bonnet, we will be actually leading this session together. Also with Einar Kleppe-Holte. You are in Brussels, Françoise, and then also Einar Kleppe-Holte joining in, who is in COVID quarantine in Oslo, so you would not be here with us, but we are actually collaborating across the world, which COVID actually has taught us. So we will approach this session, and when we understand the cities and why is circular economy such a good transition perspective for circular economy, as we see that cities are center of all human activity, a lot of human activity, and 55% of the world population is actually living in cities. It's quite extraordinary to be making the expo from Dubai, which is a totally man-made city system. And within the system perspective, we know that we might design cities for the future in regenerative and nature-friendly way. And during this 90-minute session, we will discuss how circularity might solve the complex challenges that cities face. We'll also see how might the social aspect and how do we see jobs and employment actually be part of the new era of cities, and also is it really possible to design regenerative and nature-friendly city systems. On this first session out, we are so honored to have the European Commission, Mr. Pavel Misiga, your head of the unit of eco-innovation from the Directorate General for Research and Innovation in the EU Commission. And we know that the EU has really been bold on pushing city systems, and we are eager to listen to you. Mr. Pavel Misiga, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Good morning to everybody. I hope you hear me well.
We do.
Thank you once again for invitation. I'm sending my regards from foggy, cloudy Brussels to sunny, warm Dubai. I want to speak about a new initiative of the European Commission called Circular Cities and Regions Initiative. And I will share my screen for a moment. I hope it will work. Can you see the slide? Yes, I see.
We see it very well. Thank you, Pavel.
So first of all, what I would like to say is that circular economy is an excellent concept. But the reality is that we are very far from implementing this concept. We have new policies in place in the context of European Green Deal, a new circular economy action plan, but reality is that European economy is predominantly linear. You can see the well-known butterfly picture of how circular economy could work. But on the right side of the slide, you see the real flow of material through European economy. And what we can consider a circular economy is that little loop at the bottom. So about 10% of material use in Europe is circular. And this is valid for all kinds of materials, whether it is fossil-based minerals, whether it is bio-based materials. So what we really need is a fast, accelerated transformation from linear to circular. And it is a big challenge because our markets, our economies, and all the actors are used, and the market mechanisms are very often optimized for linear economy. So we really need radical transformation, radical change. In that sense, you know, it's a huge and difficult project for our societies to change this, and there was a lot of thinking how this should be done. We base our thinking on understanding how ecological transitions take place, and we see that what we need is a lot of experimentation and building a critical mass of successful circular economy projects of different sizes, and also to create a favorable framework. And then these initiatives that were niches originally becomes more frequent, more numerous, and progressively as they grow, and push the system to change, they actually break the old patterns and create new ones. So on this graph, you can see the blue part of this picture is actually this favorable environment. We need policies, we need institutions, we need financial mechanisms, incentives, but at the bottom of the picture, we need a lot of experimentation and activities that can be considered niche activities at the moment. That growing, they are becoming more important, and actually they will overwhelm the system. And this is what I want to speak about, this experimentation. Cities will play a very important role. And there are objective reasons for that. Cities are very important from the point of view of material economy. Urban areas have very intensive urban material metabolism. They have a lot of material stocks that can be used in circular way. Many circular value chains have actually regional scale. Yes, indeed, there are many products that travel around the world, but there are many other products, and the bulk of material only moves in economies within regions. So the regional dimension is very important, and urbans play the key role there. So our policies, while also working at horizontal level and very much become part of national and supranational policies like EU policies, we see that this process has to have also focus on cities and regions as agents of change. And these opportunities of working with and stimulating cities and regions are enormous, because cities are very important market actors through their procurement activities, through focusing certain material uses. For example, construction happens mainly in cities, and construction is one of the major use of materials. And at the moment, it's very much a linear process. So circular economy in cities has great potential. But also from institutional point of view, cities are more flexible and can better support what is needed for circular economy transition. And it is collaboration of different actors, regional actors together in circular value chains. Collaboration that does not happen in linear economy, because there the actors mainly compete or do not interact. In fact, we need much more intensive collaboration and interaction of actors to facilitate circular economy. But there are also challenges. Cities may lack investment funding for local projects. The technical capacity of cities and regions may be limited, but also the political priorities can change with every election, and what we need is certain stability in supporting long-term projects and initiatives. So we need also collaboration of national governments to create favorable framework and provide incentives like fiscal incentives, tax, etc. So considering all this, the European Commission decided to start this new initiative. It is basically a support scheme for regional and local circular economy initiatives, and it brings financial forms of support with technical support, provided a number of collaborating organizations. The target groups are local and regional consortia of important actors. First, local governments, local administration, but also businesses, industry, research technology organization, knowledge organizations, universities, etc. But also citizens and different forms of citizens organizations. And this support consists of different forms. It is grants, financial support to demonstration projects. We plan to spend about 200 million in 6 years. Then project development assistance in many forms. We will have a colleague from the European Investment Bank, hopefully speaking about CETAF. This is an initiative we work on together. It's circular economy technical assistance facility, but many other forms, and non-financial assistance, soft assistance, technical assistance through collaborating organizations. And this is coordinated by a new structure, which is called Coordination and Support Office. And my last slide is how this scheme actually works and engages and provide support in all stages of regional and local initiatives. So in the first stage, in political engagement, we collaborate with other initiatives like ICLEI Circular Economy Cities Declaration or Green Cities Accord and other engaging mechanisms. Then when cities start with their circular economy programs, we try to provide this soft technical assistance through different organizations. It's a standard capacity building support. Then when they move to implementation of pilots and demonstrations, we want to provide funding in forms of grants, as I mentioned. And the last stage, when their pilot projects mature, we hope to mobilize investors and make sure that there is access to finance to roll out circular economy activities at urban level at good scale. This is a multi-annual program funded by the Research and Innovation program. You may ask why research and innovation, and the answer is circular economic transition is innovation agenda, basically. We need a lot of innovation, technological, business innovation, and governance innovation. So we want to support this all, and we are very happy to work with everybody who can contribute to this transformation process in the future. And we hope that also the participants will be able to benefit and collaborate with us. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Pavilion. From the audience at the Finland Pavilion and next to Dubai, this was really wonderful words and really set the stage and the tone and where we can start talking ahead. And also for anyone following from anywhere in the world, we are now entering quite a good dialogue where we'll be showcasing cases from Europe. And together we are actually going to run this session from Brussels and Dubai. Françoise Bonnet, what's these nice words to get the stage set? Please introduce yourself.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. And I'm really pleased to be with you on site and online as co-organizer with Nordic Circular Hotspot for this session. And of course, it's really a pleasure to showcase what European cities and regions are doing to move towards circular economy and to present different support mechanisms. So I will share my screen to, if I'm able to do so, to share with you my PowerPoint. I hope it works. Does it work? Yes?
No, we cannot see the PowerPoint. You can start introducing and just present for the audience how we have been thinking about this session, Françoise. Yes, it's a lively set ahead.
Yeah, so I'm really sorry if I cannot share my screen because I had this presentation. And so just to give you some word about ECR Plus, before starting introducing all the different panel we will have and what we can do with cities and regions. So ACR Plus is an international network of cities and regions for sustainable resource management, existing since more than 25 years. And it was since the beginning based on a multi-stakeholders approach. The network also hosts non-representative of public sector, but private sector like companies and also academics and NGOs. And we have also built during the years partnerships and strategic collaboration with different initiatives and other networks. So what we try to do since 94, so quite a long time ago already, we helped connecting the dots of circularity by information sharing, visibility, capacity building, building communities of practices and advocacy. And we do believe that cities and regions are really a bridge actor because they have a direct access to political hierarchies and decision makers. They have a constant interaction with citizens and civil society organizations, and of course also a democratic legitimacy to broken between conflicting interests. And they have direct influence on some elements of the social ecological systems, infrastructure investments, rules of economic interactions, etc. So we promote community of practice to help cities and regions design, implement, and monitor concrete tools to support the circular economy. And our mantra is the following: take the lead to ensure sustainable consumption and production, ensure the right governance and regulatory framework with long-term strategies vision, make all actors of the value chain to care and participate, make prevention the priority of cities and regions. And now, because we are here, thanks to this European Circular Economy Stakeholders Platform, this is a network of networks going beyond sectoral activities. I would like to explain you a little bit how we work. So the work is structured like that. The coordination group selects the themes to be discussed each year. In total, there are 8 leadership groups addressing different topics such as cities and regions, food, procurements, etc. Each leadership group organizes EU circular talks, event, discussion, and exchange of practices, and on specific topic, of course. And the work done by the leadership group is presented every year at the end of the year by a reflection paper, a video, and on toolkit. And of course, the most important thing is to know what are the aims of this circular platform. And what we try to do with this platform on this multi-stakeholder approach is to advance the circular economy concept with in the member states, at local, at regional governments, and also with civil society and business, and linking this in a more global picture. We try also to strengthen the cooperation among stakeholders to facilitate the exchange of expertise and good practices on circular economy. And what we also try to do is to contribute to identify social, economical, and cultural barriers to the transition and to find solutions. So in this platform, we have 8 leadership groups. And today we deal for this session with the cities and regions one. And we want to focus on monitoring circular economy in cities and regions, to develop with them supporting mechanisms, technical and economic, and to get them aware of those support mechanisms, and to link between circular economy and climate. And this I will explain you a little bit later on what we are doing on this, and also thanks to presentation later on with Scotland. So What we do believe is that cities and regions have really an important role to play. We know that the transition to a circular economy entails a systemic transformation of entire value chains covering design, production, and consumption phases, where we do believe cities and regions have a great potential to lead the transitions, since they have the tools to address local actors, either as suppliers of goods and services, but also as consumers of these goods and services, or as enablers of transition. I'm sorry if you cannot see the slide now, because it's, I think, a good graph to show you that we can work on the demand side and also on the supply side as facilitator and also as regulator, thanks to public procurements, public awareness campaign, different regulations, different economic instruments and incentives, and of course also by building and providing the right infrastructure on the different territories. What I would like...
Françoise?
Yes, please.
Yes, so this is a very good introduction how ACR Plus is working, and it's so amazing to see how you've been running your role in the leadership group within the European Stakeholder Platform. We will continue into the program, and you and I will be co-moderating this throughout the next sessions, and both include opinions where you see how we put the strategies of ACR Plus to life, and also see how a variety of learnings can be put together in this matter. I am so excited going to the next session, as Mr. Pavel Misigan really shared and how they explore and put together now a strategy, how we might in 4 steps would use engagement, include partnerships, build partnerships, start building demonstration, and extremely for the time ahead now, how do we deploy this and use investor mechanism? And I would say that might be a very good bridge to our next key speaker from the European Investment Bank. What do you think, Françoise?
Yes, yes,
okay.
Of course. I'm really sorry, but the fact that we didn't follow the agenda and that we couldn't see my slide took me more time. I'm really sorry, and it's perfect what you are now proposing for the session. No problem at all, and we will.
It is always
the other.
Yes, and being together digitally, being together physically, the room is start filling up. We have a large audience, so we will be continuing in a good flow. And of course, there will be deviation in a quite complex program. So we will just keep on keeping the dialogue and get the keynotes in. Pia Nieminen, it's so nice that you actually represent the host country of the Finland Pavilion here from. But you are not at time being, you're in Brussels, and as the European Investment Bank is a very good structure to finance European Commission policy. Welcome, the stage is yours. Really get our ears to you now. Welcome, Pia. You have to unmute.
Hello, Katrin, and I'm really sorry I had some technical hiccups, but good morning.
That's fine. Good morning.
Let's see if I can share my screen, because I would also like to show my presentation to you. Can you see anything?
Yes, and I will tell you when there's 1 minute left from your time. Is that fine with you, Pia? So we keep the schedule in order, as Françoise recommended.
Okay, so thank you for having me. I am from the European Investment Bank, which is the Europe's financing arm, so the EU bank, owned by all the member states. And we have been very active in the circular economy, not only because we adopted a climate bank roadmap more than a year ago, meaning that the bank will contribute to climate action and environmental sustainability investments 50% by 2025. And this is really an important challenge. And clearly, circular economy will present new lending opportunities for the bank. What we can do then for circular economy and circular cities? Pavel already mentioned that investments are one of the challenges. And here, this is our role, here we can help. So if you look at on the right-hand side, we can do the traditional lending, of course, as a bank. So we can do investment loans, framework loans, and we can provide equity. Very often, circular economy projects are sometimes very small, but also risky, as Commission explained that they may use new innovations and technologies. Then we can also use blending, meaning that we use the grant money, either from the EU budget or then from the national resources. And we can blend the financing with the investment loans. And this is also one way of going forward. What is also important, and this was also mentioned, it's the advisory side. And we can provide advisory from the bank, not only on financing structuring of the projects, but also technical side. We have engineers and all sorts of technical capacity from our projects department. So in order to help to build up the projects, that they are bankable and viable. Then what we also do is knowledge sharing. We have our EIB Circular Economy Guide, and we can do market studies, and we have been doing studies in order to see what are the barriers or market gaps on the market. We have our circular city guidance called 15 Circular Steps to Cities. And about a year ago, we launched an online tool called the Circular City Funding Guide. And it is a guide for funders and fund seekers at the same time. So it's a very important tool as well when looking at financing and investment opportunities. Pavel also mentioned the next initiatives. So when we are going together with the Commission and with the support of the Commission. And indeed, there is a circular city center called C3, which is a competence and resource center for cities we are setting up. And this is a kind of light advisory, meaning that we can raise awareness and we can share knowledge. And if you are interested, we will organize a webinar especially on Circular City Center on the 1st of February. So please contact me. My contact details are at the end of the presentation if you want to join, and I will share with you the invitation. So this advisory
1 minute, really Pia. Okay.
On helping going forward. And then finally, CETA, which was also mentioned, which is a technical assistance facility, meaning really having the grant money, seeing how the cities, what is the interest there, and in order to support them building up the project and perhaps helping with the studies and program structuring and business plans. So maybe I will stop here. I would have had some nice project examples from different angles, from services sector on refurbishing the manufacturing tools, or then some city refurbishing buildings and so on, but maybe they will be for the later stage. Thank you very much.
Pia, thank you so much for your contribution. And it's amazing to see with the importance of the European Investment Bank and how you pinpointed circular cities as a key transition engine years and years ago. We will continue in these sessions, and I would ask Françoise, when you've been listening to Pavel and Pia, if you have one question for this introductory, what is your follow-up question, Françoise?
Yeah. I really would like to thank both of you, and I think that it's really important to support cities and regions with the financial means, and also a lot of cities that do not know what does it mean. So I would like to ask both of you, Pavel and Pia, okay, you have big cities with financial means that they can really ask for consultancy, advices, etc. What do you do with less important cities around 200,000 inhabitants or even less? What are your help for those little cities with these initiatives? How do you help them?
If I may start, I would say that the Circular Cities and Regions initiative is equally for large cities or regions, as well as for smaller cities. There are different tools that may be used or mobilized, or they can approach, they can apply for support. For example, when it comes to technical assistance, so the EIB and Pia explained, they are opening the CETAF facility, Circular Economy Technical Assistance Facility. The EIB is used to work with large projects and large cities. So this CETAF is mainly for this is a project development assistance for large projects. But we have also in parallel, we designed a similar instrument, just smaller and aimed at smaller cities around Europe, or smaller projects. So this kind of technical assistance will also be available for smaller cities. And this is a project development assistance calls under Horizon Europe for investment projects below 20 million. So we try to design the support mechanism in such a way that the needs of all potential actors are taken into account.
Thank you, Pavel, Misiga. It's really good comment, and we will keep on rolling in the program, but it's very interesting as the position you have, head of unit of eco-innovation, the way you prepare strategies and financial instruments to perform this transition. Meanwhile, I will also introduce the third co-moderator of this three-city collaborative session. Einar, when you hear the words, so how do we not only think cities but regions, I would really say hello, welcome you, very short, introduce yourself as we are co-creating this Circular Cities session.
Hi everyone, very nice to see you. I'm sorry I can't be there. Introduce myself is one thing, but I think it's valid to introduce Nordic Circular Hotspot as well. I'm one of the managing partners of Nordic Circular Hotspot and colleague with Catherine, and we've been coordinating this session together with Acer and Françoise. And I just want to give you a very, very brief introduction to a Nordic Circular Hotspot as an organization, so you understand also who is co-hosting this. We are working quite a lot with cities and regions in the Nordic region, of course. Nordic Circular Hotspot is a market transition initiative where we are working towards a sustainable market transition with circular principles in all the value chains. And we are working strategically with cities as one of our core focuses, both the value chains of the city construction, but also the value chains of city life. And we see how cities form very, as it's been referred to here, very important development agents in regions for circular and sustainable transition. So Nordic Circular Partnership, which we are working now in partnerships with the European Stakeholder Economy Platform, is a 10-year program where we're working strategically to change the market itself And then we're also working with the digital stakeholder arena and the summit in itself. So what we are working with is to make all the stakeholders in the Nordics, both within cities and regions and in the urban-rural dynamics, work together on the different value chains. This is why we're so happy to be here and discuss this very important topic. And we will also be coming back and showing a little bit of how we work with this in the Nordic consent with the Nordic capitals and other elements. But it's really important to understand how this horizontal structure of conversations and innovations and finance and governance inflicts the value chains of the city transitions. And as you can see, it's one of our main topics, both circular city life and circular city construction is of real importance to make this. And this was also addressed heavily at our circular summit just last in November in Copenhagen. So this is the Nordic Circular Hotspot, and we're very glad to be a part of this project and looking forward to the program further. Thank you. Back to you, Catherine.
Thank you. It's exciting to see how to collaborate really across distances in the new digital way. Also, on behalf of the House of Pavilion Finland, CCRI and Business Finland are also joining on these topics because we're all in this together, and this brings us all to the next session where we want to showcase. And Françoise, we really have lovely cases that will give us some minutes each from every part of Europe. So here you go, Françoise. Please welcome and present shortly who we are going to listen to.
Thank you very much, Catherine. And of course, now we enter into the concrete part of our session. And I'm really pleased to introduce this session with 3 concrete examples of how cities and regions in Europe have started to implement circular economy strategies and on very practical actions. So let me introduce the 3 speakers. So we will have the chance to hear from Zero Waste Scotland, so Scotland, from also Navarra and Western-Macedonia. And the first speaker is Ian Gulen, the president of ECR+. So it's a very important honor for me and all the members of ECR+ to give the floor to Ian. Thank you, and the floor is yours, Ian.
Okay, good morning, and thank you, Francois. I hope you can all hear me out in Dubai and online. It's absolutely fantastic to be able to speak to you today, and thank you for the opportunity. So Zero Waste Scotland is Scotland's circular economy experts. We are fully funded by the Scottish Government. Our role is really to drive the circular economy, lead on a number of programs here in Scotland. We've been doing that for a number of years. Scotland has its own circular economy strategy, which it launched in 2016. We work directly with individual companies. We've worked with over 250 individual companies over the last few years. We've invested money in those companies, over about 14 million euros. And we've been working directly with communities across Scotland to develop reuse and repair infrastructure. As well as that, we work with key sectors, the food and drink sector, as you would imagine, remanufacturing, and also even oil and gas. So looking at the decommissioning opportunities in the North Sea, where we can reuse and repurpose quite a lot of strategic equipment there for economic benefit. So, but one of the real areas that we've probably had our biggest successes is working with cities and regions in Scotland. We've been doing that for a number of years, primarily working through the organisations like Chambers of Commerce, who have provided us with an interface with individual businesses and business leaders, but also allowed us to work directly with the municipalities on strategies, individual strategies that are bespoke to those cities and regions, rather than looking at it from a sector point of view, looking at it from a place-based opportunity. And one of the things that have helped us to enable that conversation has been looking at the climate action activity associated with the circular economy. So as well as looking at the economic opportunities being put where cities have been driving for reducing their overall carbon impact. And primarily that's been looking at, the impact, the whole life carbon impacts of their waste streams that are flowing through those cities and regions. Now we developed, Zero Waste Scotland actually developed a national carbon metric a few years ago, which was very much about how do we measure the total life cycle impact of our waste. So taking waste data, taking compositional data of waste streams, and looking at where the materials were either going to for disposal or going for recycling, and creating a kind of carbon platform, a carbon framework, measuring the embodied carbon of all of that flowing of materials and products, and what happens at the end of life. And that actually helped us drive at national level key strategies for targeting key materials. So whilst the recycling rate, which we all kind of tend to measure in terms of tons, has really only increased probably marginally over the last 5 or 6 years, the actual carbon intensity of our waste has been radically reduced. So we've actually seen a 17% reduction over the last 5 to 6 years in the carbon impact of our waste now, and that's been through us beginning to target specific materials like food waste, like plastics. So food waste, for instance, is only by weight based is only 5% of our waste stream in Scotland, but it's actually 22% in terms of the embedded carbon impacts of our waste stream. So by using the carbon metric, it's allowed us to be much more sophisticated in tackling specific waste streams, but also it demonstrates the importance of reuse and actually waste prevention, because ultimately if you're going to reduce the carbon impact of your waste, you're going to reduce it, you're going to not have it in the first place. So using our carbon metric, we have been working with ACR+, we've been working with ACR+ members across Europe on a campaign to increase the circularity of the cities and regions that we work with, and therefore to reduce carbon with our sort of target of 25% reduction by 2025. And this is us using direct support, looking at the individual data of our members at ACR+, looking at the carbon intensity of those materials, the composition, and ultimately, what are the end destinations of that waste at a local and regional level. And as you would imagine, there are differences, obviously, but the same model can be applied. But what the model does, in summary, demonstrate that, there is probably limited activity in terms of reduction of the impact of waste through recycling programs and through disposal, etc. We can always increase recycling, but where the real impact in terms of reducing carbon can come from is from prevention and reuse, and that is allowing cities and regions that we're working with directly to then develop key strategies and in terms of investment as well, to justify more increased activity with local citizens, local communities, local partners, to deliver higher value further up the hierarchy opportunities to drive circularity across the cities and regions, which ultimately then become part of their wider climate change activity. I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ian. And it's lovely to see all the results as Glasgow and Scotland really has paved the way, and how you emphasize what kind of tools, measurements, and strategies you've been working on. It's lovely to listen and learn. Françoise, you want to introduce our next guest or next keynote?
Yes, so now we will be able to hear experience from more a South member of the European Union. So Western Macedonia, well, South it's East, and with, of course, a completely different geographical and economic resources. And we will see how they move also towards a more circular economy. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Nice to be here in Dubai in the Finnish Pavilion. So I will say a few things about the Western Macedonia region and Kozani, the capital of the region, and how we intend to be climate neutral by 2030. Next slide, please. So just a very short info about the cluster itself. We are from the cluster of bioeconomy and environment of Western Macedonia, established in February 2014 as a quintuple helix platform for cooperation and synergies, promoting innovation and creating and enhancing knowledge. Next slide, please. So we are from the quintuple helix, more than 14 members. Next slide, please. Around 17 projects, both the regional and national. Next slide, please. I will try to be fast. So the region itself, it's Southeast Europe. It is the only landlocked region in Greece. And what you can see here is that the energy and mining sector is dominant. And also we have a very vast unemployment rate, both in general, but also in youth employment. Next slide, please. So our region, a lignite mine region in Greece. Next slide. But in 2019, our Prime Minister has made a pledge to be decarbonized, to be free from lignite by 2020 with a midterm of 2023. So the decarbonization process is very fast in Greece. Next slide, please. But from coal to what? From coal to a new sustainable production model for the region, a low carbon society promoted technical innovation. Next slide. But in this respect, also, the capital region of Kozani, with its mayor, declared a few months ago that it will be transformed to a climate neutral and smart city by 2030, with a goal to remain an energy center for Greece and to become a national hub for sustainability and innovation, with an emphasis on energy technologies, digital transformation, and circular economy. Next slide, please. So we intend to be one of the 100 EU cities under the EU mission for climate neutral and smart cities. And next, please. So Kozani, a former lignite city, will be transformed into a city with net zero greenhouse gas emissions. The objective is at the heart of the European Green Deal and in line, of course, with the EU and the Hellenic Republic's commitments to global climate action under the Paris Agreement. All parts of our local community and economic sectors will play a vital role, from the power sector to industry, mobility, buildings, education, ICT, agriculture, and forestry. Next slide. So, different urban strategies for Kozani are already in place. The Just Transition Action Plan, the Circular Economy Strategy, the Smart City Action Plan, Sustainable Urban Mobility Plan, and the Urban Development Strategic Plan. And in addition, a neutrality declaration for 2030 has been already signed by the Municipality Council, and the roadmap for Kozani to be climate neutral and smart by 2030 has been established. Next. So a few projects before that lead us to this way regarding bio-waste. It's the Excalibur. I will try to be fast. The next slide, please. I will share with you my presentation in order to get some more details. So Kozani is a pilot, is a follower region in the Excalibur project, and it will follow other areas around Europe to be to use the bio-waste in different selective collection, transport, sorting, and pretreatment and characterization of bio-waste. Next slide, please. So a follow-up of the Excalibur project is HOOP, when Kozani and the region now, it's a lighthouse city already transformed, and under the project development assistant, together with other 7 lighthouse cities and regions around Europe, would provide technical, economic, financial, and legal expertise needed to develop concrete investments to valorize the organic fraction of municipal solid waste and wastewater sludge, with the aim to obtaining safe and sustainable bio-based products. Next slide, please. So another tool that we use regarding the food waste is the Model to Bio, a modeling tool for giving value to agri-food residual streams in bio-based industries. Next slide, please. Also, the waste management company of our region is a pioneer in Greece. So they have already implemented a reuse center in the region, and nowadays also in Kozani will be further will be also implemented there. Next slide, please. Another pioneer project is the establishment of ATMs for the used cooking oils. So together with the ADMA, we already implemented 2 ATMs in Kozani, another 6 around the region, in order to collect the used cooking oils for the households. Next slide, please. Next, please. Yes. Again. So this is for my part. Thank you. I try to be fast, but the presentation is there for you to share.
Thank you. It's really, really interesting listening how you have been solving and also approaching this. And how we learned yesterday is moreover that every region has to find their own strategies, and really nice to learn from you. Then we will be moving on, and we will be, will you introduce the next case, Françoise?
Yes, and so now we move to Spain with Navarra, and we will discover also what are their assets and their ambition on their territories.
Yes, hello. I'm going to share my screen. One moment.
Welcome. It's really lovely to have you.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. Thank you for ECESP Dubai and European Circular Economy Stakeholder Platform for inviting me to this meeting. I came from Navarra. Navarra is a small region in the north of Spain. It's border with France, and that is to say connecting up with the rest of Europe. And Navarra has this strategic position also between Atlantic and Mediterranean Sea. Navarra is an industrial region. More than 30% of our gross domestic product comes from industry, and more of our companies are SMEs. We are, maybe because of this, or maybe because nature and biodiversity are key aspects in our region too, we have included sustainability as a key opportunity for our region. In this aspect, the taxonomy regulation that the European Commission has drawn up is very helpful to standardize criteria and how to determine which activities could be considered environmentally sustainable and which are not. We take into account that classification as an opportunity for our regional economy. The regional governments plays an important role promoting and implementing this systemic change, because the transition towards a circular economy is a deep transformation in our regions. Consequently, in Navarra, we have just renewed the smart specialization strategy. Now contains one S more. This fourth S is the S of sustainability. So we have these cross-cutting principles, and one of these is ecological transition or sustainability. We are working in another cross-cutting, that is digital transition. So these are the two cross-cutting principles that we are working on. We need support. We need support in a European level, and we find it. But we need also support and work hard in the regional level. For us, our aim is for Navarra to be a regional reference in Europe regarding transition to a sustainable and digital economy, engaged with the territory and its people, of course. We have also competitive factors. These competitive factors are conditions and resources that affect the productivity of our territory and allow us to improve the context and capacities for company business. Regarding to this, we call them the roots of the tree. And regarding to this, we have a good governance. We have a triple helix, research and development, private sector, and also public sector, of course, and maybe we can say quadruple helix, because we also take into account the society. If I have set the roots of the tree, now you can see the whole tree, because we also have the thematic priorities, the strongest force in our region are electrical and connect mobility, health and sustainable food, green energy industry, personalized medicine, and sustainable tourism and audiovisual industry. As you can see, all of them involve sustainability in their names. We are also renew the Circular Catalog 2021. This is a booklet of Navarra organizations that are working in a business model based on circular economy. The catalog not only shows the best practices and business model, also presents an offer for European collaboration with another partners. The companies that are in this catalog are looking for cooperation with another European networks or looking for consortiums or partners for Europe or another call of proposals in Europe. They are looking for new private investors, business collaboration for scaling up their business model, or opportunity for the entering new market. The booklet has 3 kinds of companies: organization in the technological cycle, in the biological cycle, and enable organizations that are working in helping another organization to be more circular. We also work in different European programs. We work as a lead.
1 minute, okay?
Okay. The government of Navarra, we work as we lead some of them, and another one we are partners. And in conclusion, we are motivated by our plan to incentivize and mobilize of more circular economy. We are working on defining incentives to accelerate this ecological transformation, and we are including also the circular economy in all of our call of proposal. We are offering more points if the companies that are in these projects are working or implementing some circular economy in their projects. And last month, we prepared a taxonomy training course for civil servants. So we are working in this kind of incentives. You can see here some of them. We are looking for technological incentives to accelerate the development of different technological solutions, and we are working in educative incentives to increase knowledge and raise awareness about efficiency. We are working in social incentives to involve consumers and society in this change, and we are also working in industrial incentives in regulatory, because we need laws to allow this change, also in markets.
Thank you, Itois.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yes, it's lovely to listen how you introduced the social dimension. And when we move along the compass, the European compass, we've now been in the east, in the west, in the south, and finally we'll go also up north. And I and Kleppe-Holte, we're actually working together as within the framework of Nordic Circular Hotspot, but coming from the sustainable city development. Also, the floor is yours to set the perspective from the Nordic region.
Hello, everyone. Again, I'm very glad to be back. I need to...
I will ask you, Uxue, can you stop sharing screen, Uxue? Yes. So you have to take down your screen from Navarra and pass it over to the Nordic. Excellent.
No problem. Very interesting introductions until now. And again, I'm very glad to be saying hi from Oslo and being part of this, Catherine and Francoise. It's so nice to be here. So very, very quickly, I'll give you a brief insight in how we work in the Nordic Circular Hotspot and with Nordic perspectives on the natural city. Urban economics, the circular value of place is what we work with. In Natural State, the company that myself and Catherine also is working with is, sorry, is working with place economy as one of the understandings of how you develop value relevant to the citizens, to the society, and to the natural spheres of any place in any condition. What is interesting about Nordic Circular Hotspot and working with this in a Nordic perspective is that you get a bit like we've seen now, a high diversity of approaches to sustainable city development or value creation in city scopes and cities and regions. We have represented here the 5 capitals of the countries with a very big diversity in how you approach both city-centered and regional-centered urban-rural dynamics of value transition. And this is what it is all about. And we've been, of course, representing the Nordic model. Is interesting because it has some unique market culture aspects like high transparency, high digitalization, high level of trust in the societal structure, and high balance in private-public collaboration. But we need to move from Nordic model to kind of future model, and that's the core. And what we're seeing is that we need to move from only climate neutral to also nature positive in the cities. And this is where we're working with moving towards in the Nordic consent. Here represented with Oslo, a picture of Oslo, and we're looking at how you can kind of use nature and natural systems as the model, as the new supermodel for city systems. That is where we are moving towards. And then we need to understand the diversity of value dynamics in economic structures. So we're looking at all the sustainability economics. Sharing economy is one important factor of the urban economy. Direct trade, open trade, digital economy, the digital transition, transparency trade, of course, the climate impact measurements in carbon economy and bio and eco economy. But we're also looking with the new donut economy where you introduce the social aspects. And of course, the SDG, which we are representing here, the SDG implementation in cities. How do you implement the Sustainable Development Goals in the city planning? But with all of these economies, we have defined and seen that circular economy is the core essence to explain how natural resources. Thank you. How natural systems, the natural resource systems and natural resources are moved through the market and societal systems to us humans, the consumers in the cities. So we are looking now on how we can define and understand the circular city life, how you use the city over time, looking at the city society and the city nature as base for us as city humans. And then, of course, concretizing this to each location with the city's function and the city's form, but always with understanding the city culture and the city context. So we're looking at these seven parameters, combining human-centric city development with circular principles for natural management in the city society and city market systems. And this is a very interesting work we've been working with for the last years, looking at all these cityscapes with both natural states and circularities represented here by myself and Catherine, and in Nordic Circular Hotspots. We also launched this on the Circular Summit in November. But we haven't done this alone. We've been working with the Sustainability City Center in Trondheim with the SDG implementation. And I think you have a guest there today, Catherine, on stage, because we've also been working with Circular Change with Ladea Gosnir from Slovenia. And I hope she can also join me and join us on stage now on the last aspects of, hi, there you are, Ladea. So good to see you. And I'm so sad that I cannot be with you there. But
so good to see you. Yeah, unfortunately not here, but Catherine and Martin are here representing the colors of Nordic Circular Hotspot. Yeah, so hello.
Hello, I think this represents well the time we are in. I'm stuck in isolation in Oslo because I got infected before last week. So that's how it is. But so I'm so glad to see you there together with our team at the Finnish Pavilion with our partner Business Finland, and being here representing Nordic Circular Hotspot, Nordic Innovation, and the whole Nordic dynamics with you, Ladea. How are you doing?
Yeah, so it's fine. It's great being here with our friends at Dubai Expo. And I would just like to do a kind of wrap up, right, Catherine? So Einar, what I have heard on this side here at the Finland Pavilion is that there is really this feeling of the power of European Union and of our European Circular Economy Stakeholder Platform, because we are all the partners of this platform, and it is the network of networks. We have seen so many great examples, so I'm really empowered and encouraged by that. And my second takeaway is that we have a lot of very valuable resources. First of all, we have ideas and we have clear vision, and we have heard great examples of the cities and regions going towards this circular transformation. Then what we have our projects and goals. Yes, Catherine, you want to
I'm
add?
just asking Aina to take down the sharing so we get one common screen, right? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So we
So-
all can see you, also not only hear you. Lovely.
We can see each other and hear each other. Yes, I will just continue with these takeaways. So I started with ideas and clear vision, so that is needed. And we've heard about the projects with very clear goals. So because if we don't know what we want to achieve, we cannot measure and we cannot celebrate at the very end. Then at the beginning, we've heard about financial resources. So money is available. That is good message, but we need projects to allocate this money properly, and we need transparency when it comes to that, how this money is actually allocated. And most important of all, we have people with shared values, and everything starts here, and I see it as a kind of a really beautiful circle. So starting with financial capital and closing it down with the human capital and with the power that we have in our hands. So I would just say this is a marathon. This is not a short run, and we do know each other for quite many years now, and we are really persistent and we go on in this marathon, and we are implementing changes on the ground. So I think that we all deserve a big applause for everything what we have heard from the participants, and we should keep on going with this spirit and make our life circular, sustainable, and prosperous.
Thanks a lot, Ladea. And if you could, those who share their cases, if you would have like one question for those who share their cases, if there's like a paradox or one thing you think they could solve, what kind of question would that be, and who would you ask?
So what I have heard is that there is a lot of clarity in those projects that are successful. So I would ask, because we have heard how they're implementing that, what is that one thing that is essential for the project to be successful? And I'm looking here at someone who shared a very ambitious project, and I was fascinated with what you shared.
Thank you. Yes, it's nice to be here in real-time conversation. Yes, projects are crucial. Yes, for sure, and visibility and knowledge transfer, but also disseminating the results is also very crucial. We need to learn from each other. We need to inspire the others, and this starts at a local level, and it needs to be transformed in a global level. So here in Dubai, I think this is the case. We showcase our results, we showcase our projects, and this can be transformed from local to regional to European to global. And this should be the one needed.
Great message, I guess.
So as time is probably one of the only resources which still is not circular, it's very linear. So it means that we're approaching the end of this session. I will say, and Françoise, invite you to be in the room with Einar and me. So please open your screen, Françoise, because this is a truly collaborative project. And also you, if you would have a follow-up questions for any of the participants. Yeah. And
Yes.
as this is a hybrid event, we're really co-creating this from all parts of Europe, and also being very present in Expo Dubai. This is a good moment to set the agenda for the next level of circular cities. So please comment, Françoise. How do you are really the one who is in the leadership group within the European Circular Economy Stakeholder Platform. And would you please do some reflections and do a wrap up for us so we get an overview of the time we have had together so far today?
Thank you, Catherine, to give me the floor now. And I'm really pleased to have heard what I have heard. And also the remarks your colleague just did was really interesting to see. We started with finance and we ended with human resources. And this is also a very important remark, that it's where we live. So with all the cultural aspects. So from a territory to another, we have differences. but at the end, we have the same goal to be more circular. So I would like just to share with you some closing words, and I hope you are now convinced that the transition to a circular economy is in full swing in Europe, and that cities and regions play a crucial role as hubs of material flows and innovation. Thanks to strategy and planning, economic and legal instruments, awareness raising campaign, and many other tools that support local actions, local and regional authorities can really facilitate and lead the transition to circular economy on their territory. And the European Circular Economy Stakeholders Platform Leadership Group is a perfect example of a collaborative approach of European stakeholders where all kinds of actors can exchange and interact. This leads to collaborative intelligence and win-win solution. And we have seen with the different practical example that it's important to have this collaboration with networks of cities and regions like ACR+ and the CCRI initiative, financing institutions like EIB, and legislator, of course, the Commission. So we had insight about the existing mechanism, technical and financial support, and also already practical experience toward a circular economy from leading cities and regions. And of course, this is overarching by this EU Green deal, the overarching strategy. So of course, it is true that it's not always easy to have a collaborative way of working. Sometimes some actors are working too much isolated. This is why decentralized authorities must act as a bridge between these actors. They have to be aware of their role and assets. They are a connector between all territorial actors and administration, and as such, should consider the different stakeholders of their territories. Public authorities, they have to be aware that they do not have to forget also that they are the one closest to the citizens who are also consumers. So circular economy requires strong actors, public and private ones, working hand in hand for a more sustainable planet. Let me just close my remarks by addressing a big thanks to Martin and Catherine and the technical team of the Finland Pavilion who ensured this on-site, online event. I know it's really difficult, not always easy. And back to the last point of the remark before I did mine, the human resources and people exchanging on a physical way is always the best, but unfortunately it was not possible today. Thank you.
Thank you, Françoise. Thank you, Einar. Bring you both with the final comment, because this is maybe in the times of change where we're actually living now. We cannot expect everything to be perfect before we start, but really how do we get started? And we can live with a hybrid version of collaboration, but the most important thing is that we're now are getting trained to collaborate across the European compass. So if I get one final word from you, Einar, you were acknowledged to finalize for the human resource cultural dimension. We started from the finance and political side. So what would be your key recommendation? What's most important in the year we see ahead for the circular cities? And Françoise, your word as well, and then I will wrap up from Finland Pavilion after.
Well, it's a broad question, of course.
One word. Is it possible?
One word, I don't know, but of course, the aspect of that understanding that transparency is key to sustainability and circularity in all aspects. But what we are seeing is that the notion and awareness that circularity is the key to sustainability in city development, that is something that we need to build on, and the factor to understand that, and also understand that, of course, the key to circularity is collaboration, and it's all about human-to-human relation. So when it all comes back to everything, that's where it is.
And Françoise, your energy word now for the day? Yeah, I think collaboration. I mentioned it already. With collaboration, we can find win-win solutions for all actors. Collaboration.
Oh, yes.
I will keep your words to heart for the rest of the day, the rest of the year. It's really a true collaborative spirit during the 2 days of European Circular Days at the Dubai Expo. Now from the Finland Pavilion, the first session of 2. We will have a 10 minutes break on this live stream, and we will be narrowing down from the complex city transition system change, and now really zooming in on one crucial value chain. In 10 minutes, we'll meet to talk about circular system change on electronics and consumption. Thank you.
Okay. Talk with you. So, hey. Yeah, so thank you to all speakers during this session. I will ask you all to leave this meeting now so I can let in all the new speakers for the next session during this break. So well done, everybody. It's been really nice to hear you. And please leave the Zoom meeting. So Uksue, can you please leave the meeting?
Martin?
Ja.
Can you hear me?
Ja, du snakker ut i hele salen her, så, men jeg hører deg.
Det skjønte jeg. Har du presentasjon for neste session, eller?
Ja, jeg slipper inn Mikael kun nå.
Ja.
Så når vi, så kommer han til å ta den opp.
Ja, veldig bra.
Yes, veldig bra. Bra jobba, Einar.
Ja, vi fikk frem noen poenger.
Ja, det er bra. Det så veldig bra ut her i rommet, så det er kult. Og på streamen også, så.
Ja, men det er bra. Vi fikk synliggjort hva vi står for.
Ja. Hva skulle du si? Sorry.
Veldig bra jobba for dere også. Det var veldig morsomt opplegg.
Ja, det er morsomt. Nei, så men det er perfekt hvis du da kan du slutte å dele skjerm, for da er det litt lettere for meg å slippe inn folk og ta en liten gjennomgang med deg før de begynner. Så er vi i gang der. Så skal jeg prøve å kaste ut.
Bare kaste ut.
Put in waiting room as an option.
Yeah.
Francois, is it okay if do you want to just watch the stream or should I? Yeah, okay. I'll just keep you in the room. I will let all the new speakers in. Så du kan vel gå Einar om du vil stikke eller ikke.
Ja, jeg ser på litt og så stikker.
Ja, ok. Da begynner jeg å slippe inn. Somebody took my small papers. Okay, welcome to all new speakers. I just have one question. Alice, before we go further. Are you there?
I'm here.
Yeah, everything is good on the sound, on YouTube and everything?
Yep.
Perfect. Okay. So for all you speakers coming in now, it's just really important that you, or firstly, welcome. I'm a bit stressed. We had a session before this as well, so we're, but everything will be working perfectly. And so I need you to do one thing for me during this session. That's to keep your camera on and microphone on just when you are speaking. And when you're finished, you have to turn it off again. So if everybody remembers also to turn off camera and sound after speaking, then this will be okay. And for those of you sharing screen, you will share screen. And this will go perfectly fine. And also keep in mind, it's we have many speakers, so try to keep your time as best as possible. And good luck to everybody. So we're starting at 11:30, right? Yeah, so we're starting in 4 minutes. I'll grab a coffee. Okay.
Hi everyone, this is Einar from Nordic Circle Hotspot. Just when Martin is getting a coffee, it's also very important that you remember to unshare your screen after you have shared your screen. If not, it will be problematic for next speaker to share the screen. So please do remember that as well. And this will be great. Best of luck.
So welcome to this session where we'll be talking about enabling circular electronics and really approach what might be the pain point in the circular economy. We're going to talk about the electronic industry, and we're talking about skills and competencies which might be needed to transform cities, businesses, and the consumers. So this session, we are being live from the Finland Pavilion in Dubai, one of the really strong pavilions on the Expo Dubai, and this is a collaboration between Business Finland, CCRI, and Nordic Circular Hotspot, representing the Nordic Circular Hotspot, which is a network governance body where we are building up an organization to perform radical collaboration and make the Nordic region a strong, very integrated, collaborative, sustainable region. And also, as circular people, they love to collaborate. This is truly collaboration between one of the leadership groups within the European stakeholder platform to circular economy. And Michael Kunt, you are the executive director for CSCP. And welcome to the floor. The stage is yours. Can you please share with us what we are heading during these 80 minutes we'll be together now?
Good morning, Catherine, and good morning as well from Wuppertal, based in Germany. And I'm Michael Kuhn. I'm leading the Collaborating Center on Sustainable Consumption and Production. And it's my great pleasure to have you in the session today. And as Catherine just said, to have this amazing collaboration as well and hybrid events, being in Dubai, but also being, of course, virtually in different places. So let me just explain a little bit about the background of this session as well. And, you know, you might have heard it yesterday already from Franz Timmermans. He talked about the Circular Economy Action Plan, but also he talked about the important sectors to be looked at. And one, of course, is electronics. And it's very easy to understand because, you know, through the use of mobile phones, digital devices, and of course, as we are in the age of digitalization, you know, electronic devices are just everywhere. And this also makes the fastest growing waste stream then in the world, not just in Europe, it's everywhere. So, and in the same time, of course, and you might have had the same thing with your smartphone, we are using mostly the devices, the electronic products in a decreasing lifetime perspective. So often we replace them before actually, you know, they are not working anymore. And overall, if we look often, of course, if we talk about circularity, we look into different strategies. Often we only talk about recycling. Today also we would like to talk about repair and reuse. But still, even on recycling, even we have done this for years, only 40% or even less than 40% of the electronic waste is recycled. And then there's one other important figure. You can ask yourself, how many times in the last year, in the last 2-3 years, have you repaired any electronic device? Your toaster, your refrigerator, your smartphone, your computer. So actually we find that 1/3 of the European consumer have never, ever repaired any product. And that, of course, if we talk about circularity, you can make it very theoretical and can say this is a production issue, but probably it's also a consumption issue. So we need to bring production and consumption hand in hand, and we need to build skills around it. That's why we set up this leadership group as the CCP together with a number of other partners. You see them here. And we have talked intensively over the last year about what can we do as retailers? What can we do as retailers because they are in between production and consumption? Also, what can we do as city maker and city decision maker? And you will see them on the stage today. And, you know, what we are actually up to at the moment is very much talking about skills. We feel, yes, we have a lot of discussion on circularity, but do we have the skills as city decision maker, as somebody ordering, procuring products in a company, being a retailer, or manufacturing a product, or designing a product? Or are those skills are still needed because we have been living for the last century in a linear economy? And you heard this all over. So what are, the skills we need for reusing, repairing, refurbishing? And maybe we have already some skills acquired on recycling, but more again needs to be done. So our leadership group is up to creating a virtual circular academy, building skills on electronics in those different arenas. And that's also the background for the session today, to actually get latest insights on the EU Circular Electronic Initiative, because that's part of the European Circular Economy Action Plan, but also to discuss how much can we repair, how much can we reuse, what needs to be done on recycling, but also learn about them promising practices. Of course, some have already led the way. And what can we learn from business, cities, and consumers that are already prepared to be more circular? But then also, of course, potentially there is still a gap. We still need to discuss which skills are needed among different stakeholder groups to really make circularity do. So let's look on the program today. We're just in the great opening, and it's great to have you virtually or on-site, of course, in Dubai. And then we will all go over to Patrick Child, and he will introduce the latest about the European Circular Economy Action Plan, but also the Circular Electronics Initiative. And then we have impulses from different stakeholders, 5 minutes, impulses very crisp. And then we go into a panel discussion. We would like to discuss around the notion of skills and repair and reuse, what still needs to be done, why is it not fully enabled in our daily life so far. And then we will wrap up in the last 15 minutes. All right, that's the agenda for today. I'm looking forward to have lots of inspiration for today, and over back to Dubai, to Catherine to introduce the first keynote.
Thank you, Michael. You're truly with us, even if you're physically in Wuppertal. You're with us here in the Finland Pavilion, here at Expo Dubai, with an exciting program. And it's really a reason to have a strong concern for this value chain of metals, minerals, and electronics, understanding it and understanding its complexity. We came from the first session where we really had a macro perspective on the cities and regions and circular economy. And we will also bring into the city perspective among of the sessions today. We'll bring industry perspectives and we'll bring consumer perspectives. But most of all, we cannot appreciate enough the regulatory roadmap which is put from the EU side and the strong voice from the EU Commission. And hence, Patrick Childs, it's wonderful to introduce you to be with us here in Dubai on the Europe Circular Days, and we can listen to you, how your department and how you are approaching this area and how you can see the entity and this, when Europe is able to do transitioning to circular economy, and what will be the role of this value chain, which is really one of the worst damaging, but it's also the most potential one if regarding mineral, metals, values, resources, and where we're heading now, what kind of competences and skills will we need to transition. So I'll just introduce you shortly. You're the Deputy Director General at the European Commission's Directorate for Research and Innovation. And it's really from this point of view, I'm looking forward to listen to you. What kind of really directions and keywords can you provide for our session where we get insight, learn, and get the tools and knowledge needed to discuss and get ahead on these topics? The floor is yours, Patrick.
Well, thank you very much indeed, Kathleen, and I'm very, very happy to be here. In fact, now as Deputy Director General in DG Environment, where we, of course, have responsibility for the development of Europe's strategy on the circular economy. And I'm really grateful to the Nordic Circular Hotspot, the European Circular Economy Stakeholder Platform, and to the many other sponsors of this highly timely debate. And obviously, I regret that I'm not able to join you physically in Dubai today. But now that we hope that we've seen the worst of the COVID pandemic, all our efforts are focused on recovery of economies and societies. And the European recovery strategy is firmly based on the twin green and digital transitions, as you've heard from the Executive Vice President Timmermans yesterday. And both of these are very important drivers of growth, but also interconnected, particularly when it comes to enabling the circular economy. And that's why it's really a delight for me to be able to discuss today with you the Circular Economy Action Plan, which was adopted by the European Commission in March of 2020, which clearly recognizes the potential of digital technologies to enable the circular economy. Of course, digital technologies are in essence neutral in their impacts. They can be applied just as easily to accelerate unsustainable production and consumption as they can to enable circular and sustainable systems. And that's why I believe it's vitally necessary to have a policy framework that reduces the negative impacts of the digital revolution, as well as promoting the positive use of digital technologies. And that's, I think, where our circular electronics initiative that we've announced for 2022 will bring together an array of different policy initiatives to do this. And I'm really happy to have an opportunity to share a few thoughts on our emerging ideas in this area. And today, I think I'd like to highlight three main questions. Firstly, how can we reduce the impact of digital goods and service? Coming back to what Michael was talking about with the very telling statistics that he gave us a few moments ago. But secondly, how can we harness digital technologies as enablers for green and circular growth? And then thirdly, how can we position European policies and the European Union in the context of the very global value chains that we find in this sector? So on my first point, reducing the impact of ICTs, the carbon footprint of the digital sector is, of course, still relatively low as a share of global emissions. But we really do need to address the fast-growing impacts in production, use, and disposal of consumer electronics. As Michael has said, electrical and electronic equipment continues to be one of the fastest-growing sectors of the economy, with more than 1.3 billion smartphones shipped globally in 2020. But correspondingly, it's also therefore one of the fastest-growing waste streams, with more than 50 million tons of electronic waste generated each year. That's, I'm told, the equivalent of 100 in terms of the weight of the Burj Khalifa Tower every year. So Europe is a global leader in recycling e-waste, even though even in Europe, as Michael said, we still recycle less than 40%. And it's important to recognize that increasing recycling rates, which is what's much more effective in reducing environmental impacts of devices, is to reduce the amount of waste. That means making those consumer and electronic devices last longer. Take smartphones, for example. 80% of energy and environmental impacts of a smartphone occur before the consumer has even unwrapped it in the extraction, processing, and production of the materials that go into its construction. And on average, we keep smartphones for only 21 months. So each time we replace our devices, we're again causing the initial impact of the embodied materials in its construction. And that's why the European Commission is really focusing at the moment on design for durability, upgradability, and repairability. And our main vehicle, which we're going to present in March of this year, will be the forthcoming Sustainable Products Initiative. And in this initiative, what we want to do is to set legal minimum requirements for products placed on European markets. We want to make sustainability the norm for all products by eliminating the worst design traits. And we want to ensure that 80% of product environmental impact is defined already at the design stage. And electronic devices will be one of the priority product groups for which we will develop design requirements. In many cases, minor and inexpensive design changes can enable major product life extension, meaning that we don't have to replace our devices so often. And that means, I believe, that selling fewer electronics doesn't mean making less profit. And for our economies in general, by making devices last longer and by recycling more and better, we can save costs, reduce pressures on resource extraction. And at the same time, we can create jobs through value retention activities such as repair, refurbishment, component harvesting, and remanufacturing, all of which are very labor-intensive activities. And a recent study that we had suggested that if 30% of devices sold in the European Union in 2017 had been refurbished, we might have been able to create up to 43,000 jobs. My second point is about how we can harness digital technologies to enable circular and sustainable growth. And I'd like to start by giving you a specific example. I mentioned our forthcoming Sustainable Products Initiative. This proposal will not only establish physical requirements to ensure that products put on the European market are sustainable, it will also set out data requirements. We're engaged in a pioneering effort to create what we call a European digital product passport. This is intended as a powerful digital enabler for circularity by making accessible critical data for making products last longer, for repairing them, and for recycling them. Today, as products travel through our economies, they lose nearly all the data useful for optimizing their value and use. And with 4 trillion consumer products launched onto global markets every year, we really need to make it possible to track the journey of products and the materials that they embody so we can optimize their future use. And that's why we put a lot of emphasis on product traceability, a key to foster clean and circular economies. And the technologies exist to make this possible. The data exists, but it doesn't happen. And that's why we need, in this Circular Electronics Initiative, to establish the incentives for different actors along the value chain to make data accessible for people and operators that need it when they need it. And I think you can get a flavor of how we intend this digital product passport to work by looking at the recent batteries regulation. Basically, each product will receive a unique identifier, a kind of tag, which can be scanned. And from this, other companies, consumers and public authorities should be able to access the data critical to the circularity of the product. And the product passport will also enable many of other drivers of circular electronics that we plan to develop in our Circular Electronics Initiative. These include supply and demand side measures, as well as improving electronic waste management. For example, we hope to establish a right to repair for consumers, to establish repairability scoring for smartphones and tablets, to improve collection rates of used electronic devices for reuse, refurbishment, or preparation for reuse and recycling. And finally, to revise rules on the use of hazardous substances in electronic and electrical equipment. And I've come now to my third and final point, the need for us to go beyond what we're doing at European level to address circular electronics as a global challenge. Because Europe will not solve these issues alone. We must have an international perspective. And while we consume huge amounts of electronics in Europe, we are mindful that we are dealing with a highly globalized value chain. And a very large proportion of the electronic devices that are used in Europe are produced in other countries, in other parts of the world, with raw materials coming also from outside Europe. Indeed, raw materials that in many cases don't exist in Europe in their virgin form. And when they become waste, too many of these devices are shipped again outside of Europe, including illegally for suboptimal treatment, including hazardous and toxic substances which are not properly controlled. And that's why we're engaged at a global level on developing standards for electronic devices. We are bringing together global private actors, for example, through the launch of a European Green Digital Coalition, which unites 20 CEOs of major companies, including big actors like Google, Microsoft, IBM, and Siemens, to address the impacts and invest in the development and deployment of green digital solutions. We've also just revised the European Union's waste shipments regulation to ensure, firstly, that the European Union does not export waste challenges to third countries that can't deal with them. Secondly, that we make the most of valuable and critical raw materials by recycling them in Europe. And third, and finally, that we eliminate illegal exports through reinforced inspections and audit schemes for EU companies exporting waste. And we're working through the United Nations and other bilateral, regional, and multilateral international partners to establish this global framework for circular value chains, including specifically for electronics. And the Global Alliance for Circular Economy and Resource Efficiency, launched just less than a year ago at the United Nations Environmental Assembly, already brings together many like-minded governments from around the world, including, of course, the 27 EU member states and many, many other very active partners. And building on this work, the European Union is increasingly seeking to incorporate circularity into its trade deals with third country partners and in our European Green Deal diplomacy. And I'm looking forward to taking these efforts further, we hope, through a future international agreement on natural resource management. So in conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to perhaps highlight the most compelling reason that I see that we should all be vitally interested in making electronic value chains more sustainable and circular. And that is because many of the valuable metals in our electronic devices are expected to run out in the next 20 to 50 years. And so we really don't have a choice. We have to act sooner or later. We cannot go on losing the present 55 billion euros that we presently squander through e-waste every year. And so bringing things together, we need a clear and ambitious circular economy policy framework that firstly reduces the negative impacts of electronic devices and secondly promotes the positive use of technology through the enabling power that it can bring to support our circular economy ambitions. And we need to advance together internationally in this complex and important agenda to solve our common environmental challenges. Thanks for your attention. I'm looking forward to the future discussion.
Thank you so much, Patrick Child. These are good news, huh? Thank you, Deputy Director General, Environment of European Commission. Sorry about the wrong spelling in the introduction, Mr. Child. I cannot emphasize enough how much you address the topics which really are aligning with the panel that we will, or the contributors for this session. We listen to you how you have been addressing the impact of goods and services, how we might harness and what kind of enablers, and also listen your really clear direction regarding how might we position EU policies and also behalf of the Nordic European policies and as a pioneering way to go when we actually collaborate together. And I believe this brings me over to the first keynote representing the one person, which is the Nordic delegation here at the Europe Circular Days in Dubai. I will also bring one of my props with me. My favorite book these days are the short introduction for metals and minerals. And this is actually a comment back to what you are worrying about, is how do we take care of the limited resources that are within our system. So hence I welcome Mali Skogen Hole. You are the first person in this panel, and you are the Director of Technology and Sustainability of ICT Norway. You represent industry organizations. Yeah, here we go. Patrick, well, Michael, can you please take down your sharing from the screen? Here we go. Thank you. So while we're rewinding the slide deck for our first speaker, we are introducing the Director of Technology and Sustainability from ICT Norway. In this perspective, it's really wish you welcome to set the stage, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Catherine, and also thank you for the European Circular Economy Stakeholder Platform for having me. And it's been a couple of wonderful days meeting so many people here in Dubai, so I'm really looking forward to this. And I would just shortly mention that in Mrs. Child's presentation, the access to these rare metals is something that is highly debated in Norway at this point. We have a new government and they are starting up the business of turning Norway into a mining company, both on the sea floor on 4,000 meters in the North Atlantic, but also, of course, in the mountains of Norway. So it's a very interesting discussion because it puts us in a kind of a debate where some of the sustainability goals meets the other one in the door, and the discussion about access to democracy and information versus the sea floor is a very interesting one. And I think we will be standing in those kind of dilemmas for a long time. But before we built the monetary systems, we were traders. If I had a cow, I would have access to milk and cheese and meat. And if you had grains, you could build bread, and maybe I needed bread and we were trading cheese for bread. And if you guys who are listening at home or in your office, you were blacksmiths, you had skills that we needed, and also people who knew how to handle food, and chefs, they were also knowledgeable. So we built our system in a way that we traded resources for human skills and also human knowledge. But at some point it became like a hassle to drag your cow to the market and trade it for milk because the cow is big and difficult to handle. So we built a monetary system, and the monetary system helped us not put a really value, but an expected value of the cow and the grains and the resources of a blacksmith or a baker. And what comes with that is that you move the real value from the cow over to another systems. And when we are talking about digital circular economy, the digital circular economy is really going to challenge that system in the future. And I'm going to come back to that in the end of my presentations and give you something to chew on. So what we need to be very aware of is, of course, that the tsunami of the electronic waste is the back door of the digitalization of the world. All the new technologies that enable us to use technology as tools for sustainability also come with a huge quantum of use of energy, and also all these metals who are connected very big sustainability issues too. The very center core of a digital circular economy is that we have a resource, and the resource have a life cycle and a cycle that it turns into, but we also have to connect the data to every part of that resource in every part of the cycle. So for instance, if you have a computer, it's you have the knowledge data on how long it was meant to last, the longevity of the battery, what it consists of, with the climate footprint, all of these data that we can connect to all parts of, like a computer who consists of 1,500 different components, and all of them together, of course, we need access to a lot of information. And the more information and data we have on each resource, the more potential for reuse each component have. If I have a computer and I don't know what it's made of, it's also a much more risk of that being waste instead of new resources. And when we put all of these components together, like for instance, in a computer or a smartphone, and we put all these computers and smartphones into big networks, like my industry represents the biggest companies in the world developing tech, we have access to new kinds of information, the big data revolution. And the big data revolution in the circular economy, it puts our stakeholders in another position. We can put our stakeholders in the position of making better circular decisions. So the whole core of the digital circular economy is actually a very huge strength for strengthening democracy and also making new and better decisions. In Norway, we have a science project who have learned us a lot about what cities need to be aware of when it comes to a circular economy. And we have learned that cities who have been able to build a culture for data collection, who has a high level of digital maturity, who is investing in people with skills in this sector, and also is building a digital infrastructure around and between cities, they have the biggest potential of succeeding in transforming from linear to circular economy, because they have the knowledge and also mapped the resources necessary to do it. And it's almost the same in the business world, but there we also have the aspect of business models. If you can use your data-driven circular economy and make a culture for developing that in your country or your company, you will have also a big international competitive advantage. And I would say that's one thing that's really, really sure that we need to be aware of. There's really no time to wait here. I mean, very many of the tech competitions in the world of getting new markets and access to new consumers is, of course, being fast and easy and correct, hit at the right time. So it's a little bit of a digital arms race, really, when it comes to the data-driven circular economy. And so we have learned a little bit about this in cities of Norway and the companies of Norway. Yes, I'll very soon finished. I will say, yes, you can go to a picture of Oslo. Sorry, I'm getting a little bit engaged here. So what we can know about the Nordic perspective of this is, of course, the Nordic companies have a lot in common. We are small countries, a small population, highly developed welfare state, but also very high tax levels. We have a high number of women in the work industry. Schools are free, education is free, kindergarten is almost free, hospitals are free. A lot of stuff is free because the state can pay for it. But that also has a perspective of trust. And I think trust is specifically very important in this matter when it comes to digitalization of the circular economy. Because the trust in Norwegian government or the Nordic governments, it comes not from being like it was socialism or it was social democrats or it was the liberal or the right wings who run the country. That perspective actually, it seems to matter quite little. What happened over time is that different kind of government has been able to make the country work for most of us. For most of people in the Nordics, life is quite good. We have challenges, of course, but we don't have major challenges. So that have turned our countries into a place where we trust democracy and we also trust decision makers. And that brings me to, if we are able to trust our decision makers making the right circular decision for us, we will also trust the data-driven revolution that will inflect the whole system. Okay, so I need one more slide. The next one. Should never have brought these slides. So, okay, so we have made a list of some feedback that we think will be extremely important when it comes to digitalization and electronics. And I will just briefly put them up here. It's the collection and use of data, also making a culture internationally, investing in people and infrastructure, and also, of course, the public collaboration and innovation with the private sector, because the private sector, the public sector in the Nordics are so big. And cybersecurity, don't digitalize anything if you're not sure about how secure a system, and the trust in it, of course, is because we are up against some really, really interesting new technologies. So that actually, can I have the next slide, please? Our idea is that if we follow all of these ideas and feedbacks that we have tried to put together to make a trustworthy and successful circular economy, but who is data-driven, we feel like the resources and energy aggregates in the same digital circular stream. I mean, let's take blockchain, for instance. Blockchain enables digital currencies, mapping of all value chains, mapping of human resources, and not at least also the combination of use of renewable energy and reuse of energy, of course. So when all of these connects, we basically come back to our trader markets and our cow. Kan vi ta den siste? So what the digital economy does to the cow is that it's no longer a cow like we used to be when we were traders. This is now a cow, and we know how much milk it can produce, what kind of genes it has, how long it's expected to live, amount of kilos that we get out of it when we slaughter it. We have all the aspects of the cows. There is much more value in the cow than in the currency. So the expected value of money and expected value of the cow is not, we are less dependent on that kind of value and more dependent of the actually data that connects to the cow. So my question to you, and the final thing I will leave you to chew on, is, of course, what will the digital circular economy do to the monetary system? Oy. Thank you very much. That was all for me.
Thank you, Mali Hogan thank you, Mali. We had a chair accident in this room, so this is a little bit the reason why we were a little bit distracted from the stage here. And this brings us over to going from the digital circular economy and the smart circular economy and the sustainable city approach. Also, we get into the retailers, and I welcome you, Ana Maria Salcedo. You are the head of sustainability at MediaMarkt Saturn Retail Group, and this is actually the second largest retailer of electronic devices in consumer market in Europe. It's really interesting to listen to you, and please, your engagement is really coming from your heart, background as a lawyer, and now you're really working it out in the field. The stage is yours.
Thank you so much. I hope you can see me and hear me. Here in Munich.
And hear you loud and clear.
Thank you. I'm here in Munich, and thank you for the invitation. This is clear that we have heard a lot about the framework, what Europe is doing, and what is the impact then for us as a retailers. So that's why it is important for me to show you and to give the advice. It is a huge opportunity for any kind of business at the moment, for retailers, for producers to get into, I would say, the trip of circularity. For us as MediaMarkt Saturn, we are spread it in all Europe, 13 countries, more than 1,000 stores. And what we did at the beginning was really selling new products, selling electronics, what we do still. But some years ago, we realized we have to get into the repair and also into the refurbished business. Why? Exactly because of circularity. It's not only, as we heard from Patrick, put in the framework from the law perspective, but actually the consumers want it. The consumers want to repair. The consumers are aware of the resources. And this is what we're doing every single year. As an example, like every time someone returns a product, or we review the products, we bring the products into the stores again, online or stationary. We go back with the products for 97% of our returns. If we talk about repairs, is the question, what do we want us to do? Do you want the consumer to repair itself, their products, or do we want to offer the consumers the possibility of repairing? And this is the most important part of the discussions here, is that if we want to be successful on circularity, we have to build a platform where the consumer and the customers can act, whether themselves, they go repair, we teach them how to repair, or they have the possibility of going back to the stores and repairing products. Otherwise, we're going to bring the consumers again into buying new products, and of course, making a lot of electronic waste, what actually we don't want. This way of thinking is changing our business. We feel it in the way we're building our strategy. We have to offer any kind of repairs. We have to offer refurbished products as well, put them into the market. And think about new possibilities. This means we have to think in 10 years, 15 years, where the consumer is, what kind of consumers do we have, and if they really want to buy new products. Probably they don't want to do it. They want, we can put products on the market, on the stores, they can use them, bring it back, we refurbish, we make this product as new as possible, all of course directly in working together with the suppliers because they're building the products, and then bring them back to the stores, to the business. So there is a lot of possibilities for new business. There is a lot of possibilities for these disrupting forces coming in. We see in Europe the possibility of changing the world, exactly because if we have the frame as we have it now in Europe.
Ana Maria, 1 minute left, okay?
Oh, thank you. This is actually, I was getting into the end. And this is exactly what I wanted to say. If we feel that in Europe we have to change the way suppliers are making products, then they have to change it for offering worldwide. So I think the way Europe is going into the path is exactly the right way to make changes worldwide. Thank you so much. That was it from my side.
Thank you so much, sharing how far you really come out on in the stores, how the retailers play a crucial role, and also for your sharing your experience with how you use skills and competences. Your background from sourcing is really immense insight, because understanding the complexity upstream and downstream till the product meets its customer and first user is so nice to understand. And this bridges us over to the third contributor, thinking systemically. Rosa Struber, you're head of sustainable lifestyle at CSCP, which is a center of sustainable consumption, one of the leadership groups within the European stakeholder platform for circular economy. And you're head of sustainable lifestyles, not working with only electronics, but with the consumption in general, and your expertise within this field of sustainable lifestyle. And it's really interesting to welcome you. And the audience is listening. How will the consumer take a stance and take the role within the transition to circular economy? The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Catherine, and thank you also to Mali and Anna Maria for the interesting contributions. And welcome to Dubai from Cologne, Germany here. I want to compliment my fellow speakers by adding the perspective of the end users and consumers, so everyone like you and me to the table, because we cannot discuss circular electronics without discussing the role of the consumers. I did a rough count of electronic products in our home last night, and it led to 31 products. I'm also just not going to mention here all these old smartphones, which are very likely sitting forgotten in everyone's drawers who is here listening today, as this is the one top pathway of dealing with used smartphones. So even before giving it away to a friend or family, to reselling or to recycling it. And I think these small examples from everyday life bring us right into the challenge from the consumer side when talking about electronics. As we have heard before in the introduction to the session, the amount of electronic products and waste streams are increasing each year in the EU and beyond. And at the same time, the useful lifetime of most electronic products is decreasing. So we have an average smartphone lifetime of about 1.5 to 3 years. So yeah, you can see where this is going, and that this is a direction which is challenging. At the same time, there's the question, how does that go together with increasing levels of environmental awareness of consumers, which we see actually in all surveys on the European level and also on national country levels. And well, I think it doesn't go very well together. It's actually another example of the awareness action gap. So of a difference between the stated relevance for environmental protection on the one side and the actual behavior and behavior change that we see with consumers. This is a topic which we know very well from a number of environmental topics, but of course it is a very important challenge for us to tackle. And we at the CSCP usually start here with our work. And so I would like to talk to you just very briefly in these few minutes about a part of our work, which is called the Consumer Insight Action Panel on Circular Electronics. And this is a multi-stakeholder initiative, which is designed to support the transition to a circular economy by generating, applying, and testing consumer behavioral insights. And it is run in partnership with the European Circular Economy Stakeholder Platform.
One minute.
Okay, very fast. Good. So with our about 50 members here from industries of society and research, we look at different challenges, but also we have implemented a number of pilot interventions just to see how we can get consumers to change their behavior related to circularity. One of these examples was conducted with Refurb, a startup from Austria, which runs a digital marketplace for refurbished electronics. I'm sure many of you are aware of that. And here we could test a bit how consumers act to different messages about returning their smartphones on that website. And it turned out that here financial benefits are much more important to them than environmental ones. So I think that probably links back to the challenges we saw earlier on environmental awareness. So as time's running, just a very brief outlook on, I think, what we need, the 3 points that we need to advance circular electronics on the consumer side. First of all, we need better research to understand consumer barriers and opportunities, also for different target groups in more detail. Secondly, we need to piloting, testing, and scaling up for recycling, reuse, and repair. And thirdly, we need to increase the skills of consumers to become prosumers, as already mentioned before, so that they know better how to keep their electronics longer and repair them. So that's it from me. Thank you very much, and back to Catherine.
Thank you so much, Rosa. Malik? We will have, I would like you to comment what we've been listening. How do we actually see the organizational and infrastructure part as we are now, we have been, welcome. So we've been going through the organizational perspective and the city perspective, the retailer, what's happening in the stores, and we've been listening to Rosa. Now, what do you see will be, how do we take down and what's the role of the consumer? You touched the transparency and trust, but how do you see this is more, wrap it up?
I mean, when it comes to access knowledge of how to behave and what to purchase, of course, all of us have a responsibility, but it works both ways. If we also get access to information about the product, that's why I really like the idea that it wasn't really an idea, it was a launch of the data passport that the EU is bringing together this spring, and that Mr. Child presented. That's a really, really important step because it enables us to collect data on different products, and it also makes us as consumers more powerful in the whole system of making the right circular choices. So the more information we can map on each single product that is relevant for us, that is the driver for changing our insane consume, to be honest.
I really love your approach to really emphasize that it's the data structure, which is connecting the data to its material. And maybe this is also the missing link where we hear Mr. Patrick Child, as you say, address the need of a material passport. And how fast do you see this might evolve?
Well, I think it all comes down to basically some of the points that I made out them in presentation. I mean, if there are many ways of collecting data, many of them are not scientific. Being good at collecting data, gathering data, standardization of data across borders, that's one. And making it secure, that's two.
Thanks a lot. And that is now we're going to move from Dubai to Wuppertal, and Michael Kunte, now we move over to your session where you have an eager audience who has been listening to these key insights, and you will really contemplate, debate, and have a good discussion. So, Michael?
Yes, thank you, Catherine, and thanks to all the previous speaker. It was great to see the different perspectives, and thank you also to Patrick Child with bringing in the latest updates. Now we have three panelists, and if I might just ask you to actually put on your video and just to introduce them, we have on the one side Markus Poulsen. He works for the city of Lund, and of course Lund is in Sweden. Markus is an energy strategist in the Department of Sustainable Growth and works with energy and circular economy related tasks. Hi Markus, maybe you just wave your hand for those. Great, thanks. And then we have Susanne Kantner. She's head of Circular Economy Initiative Germany at Acatec. And the Acatec is the National Academy of Science and Engineering based in Munich, that of course also based in Germany. And she leads the initiative which aims at defining the transition towards a resource-efficient and digitally enabled circular economy, with also a set of stakeholders from politics, science, industry, and civil society. Hi, Susanna. Just maybe also waving your hands. Thanks. And then we have Michael Lann. He's the director of Reuse, and Reuse is an international network of representing social enterprises active in reuse, repair, and recycling. And Michael, you're also a member of the European Circular Economy Stakeholder Platform and the leadership group I just presented earlier. So maybe just starting with you to reflect a little bit what we just heard also. We heard from Rosa, we heard also from Patrick Child. Probably more needs to be done on reuse, repair, and you work with an international network in this area. So maybe just the first question to you, in your experience, where does the implementation of reuse and repair fails so far?
Thanks a lot, Michael, and greetings to everyone from Brussels. just before where it fails, I think it's also important to highlight the tremendous opportunity in terms of job creation that reuse and repair can provide. We recently did an investigation amongst our social enterprise community, and we're finding that up to 140 jobs per 1,000 tons of electronics can be made in reuse and refurbishment, and that's a lot more in comparison to other treatment options, in comparison, for example, to recycling as well. So I think in the context of the COVID recovery and really moving towards a low carbon future, I think this move to a maintenance economy based on reuse and repair, I think, is really critical for our environment, but also our jobs and economy. And in terms of where it fails, we have already heard from colleagues that at this point, mass-produced products at really accessible prices are simply easier and cheaper to replace rather than repair. And we've really got used to it, and the whole economic system has got used to this idea that we can simply replace rather than repair. There's a really good Eurobarometer study, I know it's quite old, but Eurobarometer 388, that shows that 77% of a sample of European citizens that were interviewed would like to repair their products, but don't do so because it's too expensive for them to do so. And the economics at the moment and the policies surrounding reuse and repair are not yet there fully to encourage really some substantial change amongst manufacturers, amongst retailers, for example, to do more reuse and repair. Even though it was fantastic to listen to the great initiatives from MediaMarkt Saturn earlier on, that's popping up everywhere, and we hope that this is a trend going forward. From a professional repairer perspective and a consumer repairer perspective, we've heard so much about the problems in eco-design, which is hampering, or design of products, which is hampering repair opportunities, from the difficulties in finding spare parts to be able to disassemble quickly and efficiently an appliance for repair. It takes a lot of time, and labor is expensive as well. And therefore, looking at repair, something which is very labor intensive with the current high costs of labor, is something which is also deterring this move towards, I would say, inclusive circular business models based on repair. We do have a skills shortage in many parts of Europe at this moment in time. Getting used to replacing rather than repairing has put less of a pressure on us to think about those manual skills that are necessary. And so it's much more difficult now to find repair solutions for our electronics than it was in the past. And somehow our education system is also not necessarily bringing in as much now manual skills within the curriculum, which I think is important to take into account. Two final points: marketing practices in encouraging behavior to buy new is something that I think we should look at more, because there is a lot of encouragement to entrench us within this linear economy that we have now. And so I think marketing practices encouraging us to buy new without even a problem with our current devices is something which should be looked into. And a focus historically on recycling in terms of our overall waste management and circular policies has led to a situation whereby all of our collection and logistics systems for waste are very much oriented towards recycling rather than reuse. And I think these are just some of the obstacles that we're facing at the moment to really push reuse and repair forward.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. Great insights and so many things to tap into. But maybe, Susanna, over to you. You have been very active in drafting the German roadmap on circular economy. What you just heard from Michal, or also the other speakers today, do you have similar experience? You looked on batteries and many other things. Is it all the same that we have problems on repair and reuse everywhere, or do you have different findings so far?
Yeah, thank you very much, Michael, first of all, for inviting me to join this panel discussion. And many of the points that Michal has made resonate with our findings from the Circular Economy Initiative. We've looked particularly at the aspect of circular business models as well, the barriers to implement circular business models. And here, first of all, of course, we have to acknowledge that Our dominant innovation philosophy currently focuses on new product development and not on value retention, not on maintenance, as it was mentioned before. And therefore, we are in a system where it's still more economical to produce new things than to repair them and to reuse them. And therefore, the profitability of repair is relatively low, especially if we look for low-value products. You mentioned traction batteries. Of course, there are great incentives. They are very valuable to retain the value. But if you look at packaging, if you look at smaller electronic devices, of course, the value is being reduced, and therefore it becomes more difficult to engage in related circular business models. Also, what we see is that because we are in a system where the focus is mainly on selling new products, there's a great fear within companies that by offering reused products, possibly even at a lower price, you cannibalize your own existing business model. And this is something we really have to take serious. So how can you make circular business models and the value retention strategies competitive? A lot of this relates to, of course, high labor costs. This was already mentioned. The reduction of the higher costs for resources that would need to be implemented if we want to make these business models competitive. So these are some of the things we see in businesses. Other barriers relate to technologies. I just briefly mentioned this. Information, lack of information to data, lack of information to how do I repair this product. Also, lack of information on the state, on the whereabouts of the product and the components. And here, the keyword, digital passports have already been mentioned, and we consider this as a very, very relevant activity that the European Commission is putting into place here. Lack of legislation, mainly focused on recycling. We have public or industry organized collection schemes, but they focus on recycling, and therefore there's a danger that the products that are being collected are maybe even damaged during these logistical processes. So we have to focus on maintaining value when we set this reverse logistics infrastructure in place. And also mandatory quotas on reuse, for example, would help a lot that these rates do not really over time, as we've seen happening. Last point, the skills themselves. Few consumers have them. They don't know how their product is functioning, how to repair it, how to get access to this information, apart from the fact that you might look on YouTube whether there are explanatory videos, how to repair your electric toothbrush or something like that. But then you also have this problem in companies, right, where there is a lack of condensed knowledge how to repair the machines that are being used. So there's an insufficient knowledge transfer, for example, when employees are changing in the company and the knowledge they have acquired is not subsequently given to their employees. So these are, some of the points we've seen in Circular Economy Initiative.
Thank you, Susanna. And maybe just over to you, Markus. You work at the city level. You have to deal with the waste somehow, and probably every day in some way. But do you have an example where at the city level, the notion of circular electronics is treated particularly well? What are your insights? How can you as a city support all this? Because every smartphones in the end it's a globally produced, but probably it might end in a city perspective somewhere. So over to you, Markus.
Thank you also for having me here. A city perspective, it's quite interesting when looking at recycling of electronics in general. I would say that the best cities in the world are in the low-income countries. First, they have less waste that is produced because they don't have that economy to buy much products. Secondly, there is a widespread reuse and recycling of equipment out of economic necessity. They can't afford new equipment, so they are reusing, recycling everything they can. But of course, it comes at a price. They have a lower life quality and a lower poverty and things like that. That is the driving factor for reusing electronics. we don't see that in Sweden. We instead we want to build a high-income society with a good life for the citizens, and we don't have that incentives to reuse and recycle waste in the same way as they do in other countries. We have to tackle this in other ways. So what we do today is that we have a system for collection of electronic waste, and it's a producer responsibility that is paying for this system. So the producers pays a fee. There is an organization that the municipalities collect the waste and then transport it on to this electronic recycling company. And most of the metals are actually recycled and turned into new metals. Of course, the hazardous like mercury and cadmium is removed from the circle, so they are so they won't come back again. But in this producer responsibility systems, about most metals are recycled, but only half of the price of this recycling is paid by the metals. Half of it is paid by the producers. So even if we collect most of it and recycle the metals and sell it for the market value, we still need to chip in money to make this system work. So my question is actually, or my discussion point I would like to bring is, what are the incentives for us to reuse and recycle? We see that for the customers, for the citizens, there are very low incentives in economic terms. It's more expensive to repair than to buy new. And also for the producer, it can be cheaper just to chip in some money for this system, recycling system, than to make better products. So what can we do? I think we should look at legislation as the EU is doing, at circular economy things, and also maybe the consumers and the citizens want to do good things, thereby educating them on what the possibilities are, how to reduce the waste, and maybe to repair, train them how to repair. So that is my hopes, I would say, because I don't see the economics in it today.
Yeah, very relevant point, Marcus, also to say, well, is it, do we have already enough incentives doing all the circular business, so to say? But, maybe also I see it in terms of packaging, similar things were said there, but then new market player came in, at least in the German market, and they changed the rules of the game. And suddenly it's a competition even around the waste streams, because they use those plastic for making other type of products out of it. But yeah, it's a very valid point. And of course, our whole session is also about skills which we need to build. So I think what we heard this morning is that, we are not yet on full speed. We haven't had, circular economy for years in place that we can say we scaled it sufficiently. And the question also, which we posted at the beginning, is, do we have the right skills in place to do so? Do we need to train somebody on circularity? And Susanne said already, yeah, consumers have also not the skills. So, but how do we, how do we map this all? How do we build skills if we say we don't have them? So what is the next step to do? I mean, we can publish books around it, but that might not mean, and of course we have to work on the incentives, but maybe over to you, Michael. I don't know, you work in a very intensive network of skill building as well. What are your insights on creating skills among your, let's say, network members as well?
Thanks a lot, Michael. I think I keep on mentioning this term, the maintenance economy. It's something which I've only started using recently after our president used it. I think it puts the idea of what is, I would say, at the heart of the circular economy in the future. But I think this vision of a maintenance economy offers opportunities for everyone of all skill levels. As you mentioned, we are a network of social enterprises working in the reuse and repair sector, which means that one of the core activities of our members is to provide jobs and skills and training to persons who are can be in a very vulnerable situation, distanced from the labor market, people of all ages, of all backgrounds. And we really see that this activity of reuse and repair offers a tremendous number of different skill sets that can be easily transferable and adapted to different, I would say, circular business models of the future. If we just focus on electronics, with everything to do with collection, with logistics, with storage, with handling of reusable goods, which is quite different to, as Susanna already mentioned, with regards to the recycling of these activities, different skills necessary there. With regards to the repair itself and the refurbishment, you do need some form of at least basic electronic and mechatronic skills that can be adapted to different contexts. And one really nice example, which I can share later a little bit more in detail through a video, is there is a social enterprise here in Belgium. They have a training center called Horizon, where they teach individuals the very basic mechatronic skills through the repair of washing machines. And these basic skills, which are taught over a period of 6 months to 1 year, allow them then to have partnerships with different types of private companies or even public companies. And so by just repairing this washing machine, learning the basics, there are opportunities, for example, in the municipal transportation service to be able to repair trams, for example, and to be able to maintain rolling stock of transportation systems. You could also work, for example, in the refurbishment of, washing machines and large household appliances. So it gives a lot of these transferable skills. And you could also speak about sales and e-commerce, which are all attached to this idea of being able to market, of course, used products. So for me, there is something for everyone in this field of a maintenance economy. So I think there is tremendous opportunity there. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Michael. Susanne, Markus, also from your perspective, where have you, in the German action plan, have you seen that skills are important? Or Markus, also over to you, at the city level, do you need to train more differently? If you say we don't have the incentives, but nevertheless, what needs to be done?
Yeah. I think a lot needs to be done on all levels, really. And just looking at the role of policymakers here, we need to make sure that the understanding of a circular economy is really implemented into education, into curricula, also early childhood education, because we need to have a completely new understanding of what waste means, how we can prevent waste, what is a circular economy, what are circular products, what are circular business models, and the impacts that my own purchasing decisions or my own decisions as a user have on resource use. So this is very, very important. And then we have to, of course, make sure that with the support of solid policy, these courses of study are set up in universities. Degree programs are being set up, professorships are established. But while it's important to set them up specifically, maybe on the topic of circular economy, it's also important that we see that we don't create silos again. Because of course, a circular economy is something that goes to all the different disciplines. We need to have it in business administration, we have it in engineering. So we make sure that this classical teaching that's happening there at the moment is not in conflict with these new principles of the circular economy. And then also, of course, we need to make sure that also business and science cooperate, because the role of the consumer remains so fundamentally important in a circular economy. So engage between business and academia in basic and applied research, and to focus on social science research, the role of consumer behavior, and how we communicate the advantages, the chances, but also the challenges that come along with this circular economy vector.
Thanks, Susanna. Markus, over to you. You know, training, skill building at a city level, what do you see needs to be done?
I think we need to tackle this in many ways, both at the consumer side, but also at the end, how to treat the waste in the end. We have had for many years campaigns to teach the citizen how to sort their waste into different fractions, and we now collect it at home in the houses in different fractions, making it easier to recycle. We're still talking about recycling, not reusing. So we will have to continue this, I think, how to do it the right way. We also need to make it simple for the citizen to do the right thing, building systems that are possible to use for the citizens. I also think that we need to work at the other end. How can we treat the materials that come in every day? The waste is never ending. And just last year in the treatment company that we are partly owner of, started a textile sorting facility, sorting the textile by different optical methods, and thereby increasing the recycling of the material. I think that we need to do similar things with electronics. Actually, we already do it, but that can always be improved. So we will need multiple ways to handle this issue, I think.
Mm-hmm. And maybe, because of course we want to inspire also everyone listening today, do you know an example, a program, have you seen something which inspired you, or which you would say, hey, this is cool to look into it? It might be even from a different sector, something we can learn from. I don't know if there's anything, and it's a question to all of you, you know, have you seen something where you would say, yeah, that should be scaled, you know, it's still in a niche, anything which comes up to your mind?
I know that we have been inspired by Belgium, their reuse system, their collection. Now I don't remember the city, but Michael, maybe you know more about it.
Not really, no, I don't know which city you mean, but that sounds at least interesting to be looked at. Maybe we can share this later, but maybe Susanne, Michael, are there any promising practices you find interesting? Or are we still at a very starting level?
Well, I think we are still in a starting level, and it's still a niche market, of course, but some of these niche markets, there are big companies which really are inspiring and which use these, they have this business model which is based on refurbishment and reuse. We have a company in Germany, they even won the German Sustainability Award in 2020, and they are actually Europe's largest non-profit IT company.